Today I want to share with you 5 simple steps to making a deliciously slimming chili. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferment, sourdough, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. Well, this slimming chili is very easy to put together, and you may be wondering why I'm calling it a slimming chili. Well, there are 3 reasons why this particular chili is a slimming chili. And the first 2 are very important, but it's number 3 that really makes a big difference in helping us lose weight. But this type of meal is perfect for anybody, whether you need to lose weight or you don't need to lose weight. It's delicious and you can vary up all the ingredients, and like what I'm doing today, you can make it vegetarian. But getting back to those reasons as to why this is slimming, the first is the main ingredient are beans, and beans are very high in fiber, and fiber helps moderate your blood sugar. And scientists tell us that if we keep our blood sugar on an even keel as opposed to spiking up and down, that can help us control our weight. The second reason is that beans are very high in soluble fiber, and that type of fiber fills us up, and so it curbs our hunger, and then it prevents us from overeating. But the third reason is the one that is really helpful to those of us who want to not only lose weight, but lose weight and keep it off. And that is that beans contain something known as resistant starch. And resistant starch is a type of prebiotic, meaning that it feeds the probiotics, the good bacteria in our gut. But it doesn't feed just any probiotic. It feeds the probiotic that scientists often refer to as the skinny probiotic. It's this probiotic that they find in the gut bacteria of people who are thin. But when they look at the gut bacteria of people who are overweight or who are struggling to try and lose weight but have been unsuccessful, they often find that their gut bacteria has very little of the skinny probiotic. So if you need to lose weight or you've struggled to lose weight, a key factor may be changing the gut bacteria to have more probiotics that are skinny probiotics. Now, another interesting factor about eating chili that's very rich in beans is that scientists tell us beans can also help lower our cholesterol, specifically the LDL cholesterol, which can be hard for some people to get down. And the good thing about trying to lower that LDL cholesterol is that scientists tell us that when we lower that, we also lower inflammation in our body. And the lower our inflammation, the healthier we are. And often, interestingly enough, when we can tamp down inflammation, it can sometimes make it a little easier to lose weight. But the 3 main reasons for enjoying this slimming chili are that we can balance our blood sugar, curb our hunger, and improve our good gut bacteria that supports slimming. Now I want to go over the 5 steps to making this slimming chili. But don't worry, you don't need to write anything down because all of this information will be over on my website. Just open the description underneath this video, look for the word recipe. There'll be a link there. It'll take you over to marysnest.com. It's Mary's Nest, the same name as my YouTube channel. And you can read the recipe online or you can print it out. And I'll explain all the variations over there as well. Now, the 5 steps include step number 1, first picking your seasoning. And it's really mix and match, whatever you like. Now, what I'm going to do is include 1 tablespoon of chili powder. And this is just a chili powder that I've mixed up. I've got some chipotle in here, I've got some ancho, and I've got some cayenne. Now, as I said, I'm just using a tablespoon, but you can use as much as 3 tablespoons of chili powder, and any chili powder you like. It's really a matter of how spicy you like your chili. Then for just a little bit of extra punch, I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And then all I've got here is a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to start with that, and then we can always add more salt at the end when we adjust seasonings for flavor. And if you are on a salt-restricted diet, yes, you can leave the salt out, and you can certainly use something like those no-salt seasonings that are available that I think rely more on what it would be, potassium chloride. I'm not sure. It's like got the name no salt and things like that. Some of you have told me about. But you can also use like Mrs. Dash and any of those salt-free seasonings. And then over here, I've got 3 garlic cloves. They were small. If they were large, I probably just would have gone with the 1, but the ones I had were real small. So I've got 3 garlic cloves in here. So those are my seasonings. Next, you want to pick your vegetables, and you really want to load this chili up with vegetables. Vegetables are very rich in minerals as well as fiber. And as we learn, fiber basically helps feed probiotics. And the more we can improve our gut bacteria, scientists tell us, the overall healthier we are. So really go I want to say overboard in terms of adding vegetables. But what's so wonderful about this, again, it's mix and match, whatever vegetables you like. And you're going to want about 6 cups of vegetables. And I often call this sometimes a clean out the crisper chili, because you can really just look in your crisper and see what you have that you feel you want to use up pretty quickly. And so by all means, throw it into this chili. What I've got here is 1 onion chopped up. I just had a yellow onion. I had a couple of carrots that I chopped up, a couple of stalks of celery. And then over here, what this is pimento. You can certainly add, when in season, fresh red bell pepper would be absolutely wonderful. But if it's not in season and you have some pimentos, which are the fresh red bell peppers, more or less, in a jar, those are great too. And then over here I had some lettuce. It's simply romaine, which is very nutritious, and I just chopped that up, and that's going to go right in. You can use frozen vegetables if you want. You can mix and match fresh and frozen vegetables, what's ever easiest for you and whatever you have on hand. But you're going to want about 6 cups or even more. Next, you're going to want some type of tomatoes. I've just got crushed tomatoes here. You could also use diced or chopped tomatoes. You could use the whole tomatoes and just break them up. If you've just got some tomato sauce, you can add a little water maybe to dilute that. You can use that. You just need some type of tomato base. And as I said, what I've got here are crushed tomatoes, and you're going to want about 3 cups. And you can use your home canned tomatoes, or you can buy canned tomatoes at the store. If you do use canned tomatoes, as I said, you're going to want about 3 cups. And I think one of those, the large cans of crushed tomatoes, I think they're about 28 ounces maybe, those will work fine. But if you want to learn how to can your own tomatoes, I have a video where I show you how to do that, and something you could do this summer if you grow tomatoes or you get a nice bunch at the farmer's market. I'll be sure to link to that in the iCards and in the description below, where you can definitely learn how to home can tomatoes. And it's very easy to do, and I walk you through step by step with everything you need to know. Next, you're going to need 8 cups of some type of broth. And what I've got here is actually what I call a golden broth. And this is a vegetarian broth. Many of you had asked me, did I have options to the bone broths that I usually make that could be used in recipes to make things vegetarian? And so that's why I'm kind of keeping this vegetarian and using my golden broth. And this is delicious. And I'll be sure to link to this in the iCards and in the description below, so you can watch the video and look at the recipe where I show you how to make this. It's very easy to make, and it's really good. I highly recommend it if you're looking for vegetarian options, or if you're just doing recipes like Meatless Mondays, or you want to do something different on Fridays instead of fish, and you just want to do something vegetarian. This broth can really be a lifesaver. I highly recommend it. Then finally, the star of the show here, you're going to want 6 cups of beans. And I've just got a mixture of beans here. I've got pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas, or chichiri, as my mother calls them. You may also know them as garbanzo beans. So you're going to want 6 cups of beans, and those beans have been soaked and they've been cooked. Now, if you have beans that have just been soaked and not cooked, you can still use those. It's just going to take longer to make your chili. And if you are using dried beans and you're soaking them, you're going to want about 1 pound of beans. 1 pound of beans should yield you somewhere around 6 cups of beans once they're cooked. If you're using canned beans from the grocery store, you're going to need 4 cans that are 15-ounce cans. So you're going to need 4 15-ounce cans of beans. And the reason that I like to use a mixture of beans in this recipe is because each bean kind of brings a little something different to the nutritional table. I always like to add in black beans to a stew like this because I'm not a fan of just eating black beans plain or by themselves. But black beans are very good for weight loss, so I do like to include some in this recipe. Scientists tell us that black beans have an ingredient that actually kind of fires up and helps burn belly fat. So I need help with that, so I'm always including black beans. And then I also like to add in some chickpeas. First of all, I just love chickpeas, but second of all, especially as you get older, this may interest you. Chickpeas, scientists tell us, have an ingredient that helps relieve joint pain. So I definitely want to put some of those in the chili. And I've also got pinto beans in there, as I said, and pinto beans are supposed to be very good for our brain and helping with concentration. And kidney beans are supposed to be very good for clearing toxins out of the body. So we've got everything covered with that mixture of beans. So those are your 5 steps: your seasoning, your veggies, your tomatoes, your broth, and your beans. And I just want to mention one more thing about the beans. If you're new to working with dried beans, I have a couple of videos where I show you how to soak beans and how to cook them properly. I also have a video where I show you how to soak beans and sprout them if you really want to go the extra step that makes them very digestible. And so I'll be sure to link either in the iCards or in the description below to those videos. And now if you want to make this a meat-based chili, you can definitely do that. You have options. You can do half beans and then half ground beef or cubed beef, whatever you want to do. The other option is if you did want to completely eliminate the beans, then you would add the whole pound of meat in place of the beans. But if you can digest beans and they agree with you, and I highly recommend watching that video where I show you how to soak and maybe even soak and sprout them to really improve digestibility, I highly recommend that you do add beans. Although I know to a certain extent I'm really bucking the system here being a Texan. Or, as you all know, I'm a former New Yorker, but I live in Texas now. And in Texas, there are no beans in the chili. But if you can kind of look past that to my sweet Texas friends and look at all the benefits that the beans offer, maybe you can sneak in a few beans. And if you do decide to replace all the beans with meat or just half the beans with meat, you can definitely use, a beef bone broth or any type of other meat-based bone broth you want to use. The first thing you're going to want to do is just put some fat in a really nice big Dutch oven that can hold everything. And then you're going to want to turn your heat up to about medium. Now I've just got some olive oil in here, but really you can use whatever you want. You could put in some ghee, some butter. You could mix the olive oil and butter. You could use coconut oil if you like that. If you are going with a non-vegetarian option, you could use some beef tallow. Anything like that will be fine, but you do need to put a little fat in the bottom of your pan, and you're going to want about 3 tablespoons. The first thing I'm going to do is take all of our seasoning and just sprinkle this over the olive oil, and then we're going to we're going to stir everything around to incorporate it well. So I just cook all those spices up in that nice hot oil for about a minute. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in all of these wonderful vegetables. Oh, listen to that sizzle. I like that. Alrighty, now once we get all of this in here, we're going to make sure that we toss this really well with all of the spices so we get the flavors beautifully distributed. Once you get that stirred really well so that all of the vegetables are tossed with the spices, you're going to go ahead and add in whatever tomatoes you're using. As I said, I've just got some crushed tomatoes here. But the diced, the pureed, whatever you have will work. And then we're just going to give this a real good spin. A spin around, a stir. Now once you get the tomatoes all mixed in, you're going to want to go ahead and add in your broth. Once you get your broth in, just give everything a really good stir. Then we're going to bring this up to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to low and just let it simmer for about 10 minutes to let some of the vegetables, like the carrots and the celery and the onions, just to soften up a bit. Now I've brought this up to a boil, and what I'm going to do now is take the lid and cover this pot, and I'm going to turn this down to low. And I'm going to let this simmer for about 5-10 minutes. If you want, you can skip this part. But what I found that when I use any vegetables like carrots that tend to be on the tougher side, that they benefit from having a little bit of a simmer before I go ahead and add in the beans. But if you find that pretty much everything you have in your vegetable mixture are all tender vegetables, then you don't need to do this. But I'll let that simmer for a few minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, I let that simmer for a bit, so I think those carrots are tender. And now I want to mention, I'm doing this in a Dutch oven. You can use a soup pot, a stock pot, whatever you have that can hold all of this. But you can also do this in the Instant Pot or the slow cooker. And those two work very well if you're using beans that have not been cooked, preferably that have been soaked but are not cooked. And if you want to make this with the uncooked beans in the Instant Pot, you can probably do it like in 30 to 45 minutes. And in the slow cooker, you can kind of leave it all day, 8 to 10 hours. So I just wanted to let you know you have those options. But now we'll go ahead and we'll add in our beans very carefully, because this broth is very hot. Now I'm just going to stir this very well to get all the beans incorporated. And then I'm going to bring this up to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to low and let it gently simmer uncovered for about 30 minutes. Now this burner, if you've been with me for a while, I've shared with all of you, tends to run very hot. So that's why I'm going to put this down to low. But everybody knows their stove, and so it's going to be somewhere between low to medium. What you're looking for is a gentle simmer. If I was doing this on my stove, which the heat is a lot less strong, I would probably be able to do a gentle simmer on medium. But that's what you're looking for, just a gentle simmer, and leave it there to simmer like that for about 30 minutes. Uncovered. Now, as you saw, I used crushed tomatoes. If you decide that you use diced tomatoes or you use the whole tomatoes that you just break up with your hand, those often have a lot of liquid in them, so you will probably want to strain off that liquid, save it for something else, don't discard it, and then just use the tomatoes all crushed up, diced or crushed up if you've got the whole ones, in your chili here. And during the simmering process, just check on it periodically and give it a little stir just to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. Well, I let this simmer uncovered for 30 minutes, and now we have this beautiful, thick bean and vegetable slimming chili. Now, I want to mention, if you are using cooked beans, and at the point where we added them in, if you wanted, you could just let the beans warm through, and then you could eat this basically as something similar to a minestrone soup, but without the pasta. So that's something to keep in mind if you're in a rush. But if you've got the time and you can let this simmer gently for about 30 minutes, you'll have this wonderful chili. Well, this looks delicious. Now let's give it a taste. It's hot. Oh, that's delicious. That 1 tablespoon of spice makes this just mildly spicy, which is perfect for me. The vegetables are tender. I really like this. Now, if you'd like more recipes that are slimming recipes, be sure to click on this video over here where I share some wonderful slimming soups that, like this chili, feed those good skinny probiotics to help us lose weight and stay slim. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Love and God bless.